Ballistics is Russia's last argument in the war against Ukraine, and it is necessary to find an effective countermeasure. This is exactly what President Volodymyr Zelensky spoke about during the meeting between Ukraine and NATO representatives in the Council format. Such a meeting took place for the first time. The NATO Secretary General and 32 alliance members arrived in Kyiv, reported by Anna Boli.
Ukraine is necessary to strengthen NATO's defense, and most alliance members understand this. None of the 32 countries has said that they do not want to see Ukraine in NATO. Some are simply silent, and to make a decision, unanimity is required, President Volodymyr Zelensky stated after the meeting of the Ukraine-NATO Council. So for now, he called for missiles to be provided to Ukrainians as soon as possible. The current volume and pace of supplies are not enough to defend against massive Russian attacks.
There are enough missiles in the world to provide such protection. All that is needed is the political will for Ukraine to receive them. We also raised this with the previous U.S. administration and are discussing it with the current one, specifically on granting Ukraine licenses to produce Patriot systems. This is not just about Ukraine. This concerns all Europeans capable of mass producing them.
After all, countries are currently waiting in line, hands tied, for American weaponry. Volodymyr Zelensky noted new American Patriot systems and ammunition. Ukraine could only have received them around 2030. Kyiv managed to negotiate with other countries to change the order in the queue. It was necessary to pay for the contract as quickly as possible. The government was counting on money from European partners, but the financial support was delayed.
I know it's difficult, but the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the National Security and Defense Council, and the Ministry of Defense, it's the fundamental obligation of these institutions to do this, because it's about the security of our state and the safety of our citizens. And if such large sums of money from our international partners do not come in, we must find this money ourselves. It doesn't matter where it comes from. We simply have to find it. Because finding patriots and getting in line for them is even harder.
NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte spoke in dry facts. Russia is losing approximately 30,000 soldiers per month. That is, in 1 month, more than the Soviet Union lost in 10 years of war in Afghanistan. The numbers are extraordinary. And while Ukraine is achieving victories on the battlefield, Russia is growing increasingly desperate, Rutte noted. And he addressed young Russians quite emotionally.
Guys like you are going off to fight without proper military training. The equipment you'll be given will be of poor quality. There is a very high probability that you will die. And if you are wounded, you will be left to die in the mud. Tens of thousands of Russian casualties. These are not abstract numbers. It will most likely be you.
To bring peace closer by summer or autumn, this year such plans were announced by the head of state. Sanctions against Russia, our long-range capabilities, finances for Ukraine, our political cooperation, and the determination of our partners to help Ukraine exactly when it is most needed. All of these are signals to Russia that this war for Russia will be futile. All of this pushes Russia toward diplomacy. At the same time, he admitted that Ukraine is currently not in Washington's focus, since for the Trump administration, the issue of Iran is still the top priority. But the United States of America is the strongest player, the one who can push Putin to end the war, Zelensky noted.
I have stated quite frankly, we support any format. And I am ready for direct negotiations with Putin to bring this war to an end. Rather than waiting patiently in a long line until all the conflicts in the world are fully resolved, and only then will it be our turn.
Rutte assured Ukrainian missile supplies continue daily, and they are ready to support Ukrainians against the Russian aggressor. After all, this is an investment in freedom and security for both Ukraine and NATO.
Ukraine has now achieved such success that Putin can organize the May 9th parade only by official decree. This president, it seems you then allowed him to hold the parade for 2 hours. And he finished it in 1 hour, 55 minutes. In other words, he decided not to take any risks.
6 countries have confirmed their readiness to contribute to the Pearl Initiative to continue purchasing weapons for Ukraine and to increase the production volumes of our own weapons. A real effective security guarantee for our country.
At this present moment, Ukraine is allocating approximately 45 to 50 billion US dollars every year for weapons production. We have managed to reach, in my opinion, a remarkably high and efficient level. We have sufficient financial resources to properly fund the armed forces of Ukraine. We need to ensure exactly this sufficient level, both for production and for the army, and not just for now. This is not just for the immediate years ahead, but for the much longer-term future.
Ukraine's resilience, financial guarantees, and their long-term nature are an obvious task for Ukraine in the near future. Already in June, President Zelensky will speak about this at the G7 Leaders Summit, and in July he will personally travel to Ankara for the NATO summit. Ukraine has ideas. It is necessary to convince the world to act more decisively. Anabol Maxim Kostenko, Fact ICTV, United News.
The NATO Secretary General in Kyiv mocked Putin over the May 9th parade and addressed the Russians. Ukraine, together with European countries, is developing its own air defense system. Rubio made a new statement regarding the $400 million in U.S. aid. We will tell you all about it next. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte mocked Putin over the May 9th parade in Moscow. And during his visit to Kyiv, he stated that Ukraine is so successful that the Russian dictator Vladimir Putin can only hold a May 9th parade by official decree of President Volodymyr Zelensky. Rutte said that Putin was given 2 hours to hold the parade, but he finished in 1 hour and 55 minutes so as not to take any risks.
Ukraine is now so incredibly successful that Putin can organize a May 9th parade solely through an official formal decree of President Zelensky.
The NATO Secretary General, speaking from Kyiv, also addressed young Russians, emphasizing that Russian propaganda is deceiving them and that the course of the war in Ukraine has changed, making Russia's involvement in it increasingly dangerous.
Guys like you are going off to fight without proper military training. The weapon you will be given will be of poor quality. There is a very high likelihood that you will be either killed or severely wounded in Ukraine, and most likely if you are wounded, you will be simply left behind to die in the mud. So, when we talk about tens of thousands of Russian casualties, these are not just abstract numbers. That will probably be you.
He also referenced the alliance's official calculations regarding Russian losses.
The military losses suffered by Russia are incredibly significant and staggering, over 30,000 per month. To put this into perspective, in just one single month, Russia loses a higher number of personnel than the USSR lost in 10 years during the 1980s in Afghanistan. These are absolutely staggering numbers.
Rutte arrived in Kyiv together with members of the North Atlantic Council, representatives of all 32 NATO member countries. Let me remind you, in May, Rutte stated that during the ministerial meeting of alliance countries, he heard many encouraging comments regarding allies and support for Ukraine. At the same time, President Volodymyr Zelensky stated that Ukraine, together with European countries, is developing its own air defense system.
Today, decisions came from several countries. 6 have pledged to support the air defense. Our thanks to them. We won't say which ones. We won't mention the amounts.
Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio made a new statement about $400 million in aid for Ukraine. News about the allocation of military aid from the U.S. will be coming soon. He made this announcement during a U.S. Senate subcommittee meeting, according to Reuters. Rubio reminded that this amount was approved by Congress, but its allocation was blocked by the Pentagon. Shortly before Rubio's statement, influential Republican Senator Mitch McConnell said that the Pentagon is deliberately delaying the transfer to Ukraine. These $400 million, they are essentially stuck within the Defense Department. Following the recent criticism, the United States Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth announced at a formal congressional hearing that his department had officially unblocked the aid package and the military equipment and supplies were released as of yesterday. Earlier, Congress approved aid for Ukraine this fiscal year in the total amount of $400 million as part of the Ukraine Security Assistance Initiative. Another $400 million under this same program is allocated for the upcoming year of 2027. Earlier, the U.S. Department approved the sale to Ukraine of equipment for servicing the Hawk missile system and related equipment to foreign military companies, for a total amount of $108 million.